A clip went super viral of Lara Trump, the wife of Eric Trump, the daughter-in-law of Donald Trump, and the co-chair of the Republican National Committee on The Breakfast Club. I want to play it for you. I know some of you already saw it. And then I'll talk about some other things as well. While you're watching this, please do remember to click the subscribe button as we are trying to race across the finish line, not the finish line, but a big goal line of 1 million subscribers. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Here was this viral moment.
A lot of people feel that Trump is racist. And what do you say to that? You know, in 73, of course, it was when he got sued for not renting to African Americans. In 89, when he took out the ad in the paper. And even saying Obama wasn't born here and show his birth certificate. And there's numerous things. So what do you say to that?
Well, I think that's ridiculous. I've known this man for 16 years. And, you can go to each of those incidents and there was never any proof of anything with the houses that you're talking about.
He settled out for that, though, right?
Yeah, they settled that. And there was no admission of anything there. Central Park 5. There were so many people. You had a Democrat, DA who prosecuted the guys, and they admitted to it. There were a lot of people in New York.
They were
at that
exonerated
time.
and freed, and there was never an apology, never sorry, never a my bad.
However, I will say that you have to look at somebody and what they actually have done, and Donald Trump really was very beneficial to the Black community when he was in the White House. I will say I've never seen this man say a racist thing. I think the attacks are fairly... Why is that funny, Charlamagne?
I'm just like... It's hysterical. But Charlamagne, because people act like there's no such thing as Google or we don't have TV.
Exactly. And we'll segue over to Charlamagne in a second here because an interesting CNN moment I want to talk about. But there's a lot lately that Lara Trump has been saying that's laughable, including this quick clip.
These poll workers, we're going to have lawyers in all the major polling locations across the country. We have lawsuits in 81 states right now. We won about a week and a half.
Lawsuits in 81 states. Goodness gracious. Now, I'm assuming she meant 81 lawsuits across the states, which does get to what one of the concerns is about this election. If it's really close, how prepared and aggressively the Republican Party is going to be attempting to challenge the result. And even if Harris wins, cause confusion, stoke fear, stoke doubt, and try to get Trump in the White House, even if Harris lawfully won. But on the first clip, I've told you before, the question on most people of, is this person a racist? I usually don't find super fascinating to engage with because the defense can always be, no, I know them. They're awesome. They're not. And people have strange associations with that term as an identifier. But instead, I think it's just pointing to the rhetoric, as Charlamagne pointed out, that you can find on the internet, the actions in Trump's business career and then his political career. And we have to remember how he started his political career. Essentially was the birtherism. And if you can't admit that pretending like Obama wasn't a citizen and all these different things is not an act of racism, then you're not engaging seriously with the term. So, okay, we could set aside a debate over, are they to their core a racist human being? Because every person goes, no, I've seen them treat people of different races nicely, or however people think that term should be defined. So instead, I'm more concerned with systemic discussions of racism than pointing to the instances of it and rejecting the damaging instances as we've seen throughout Trump's entire life. Now, because Charlamagne the God was the one laughing at Lara Trump there, you do have to see on CNN something he said, calling out, channeling all of us for a moment and calling out what is so wrong too often about mainstream media coverage.
Need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares?
And
like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I mean, I think you give a damn who's elected president, and
Yeah,
I'm
especially
asking
if that
you.
president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about, once again, terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
We talked about this every single. This is what
I don't think
I've been
y'all talk
talking
about
about
it
this
enough.
every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist.
Well,
am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
That's no,
Go
that
ahead,
is
Anderson.
no. I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Okay.
But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black, like
I've seen that. I've seen those
that's
roundtable
definitely
discussions a lot. Now,
That's
that's
true.
bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
I'm not saying
Kamala
you.
Harris
I said
Not
the
you.
network.
He said the network. He
I
did
don't
say
think
the
anyone
network.
I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all have never
It's
had
definitely.
we have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who
Yeah.
somewhere on some panel have said something, but
Yeah.
I will just
But
speak
even-
up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. It's just.
So it's interesting because the point from Charlamagne is just one of the most important you can make. I think the example is a little off because less commonly are you hearing discussions of, is she black? More commonly, there's debates over, is it acceptable for Trump to be saying that? And that you can also take issue with. But there are all these other things, like after Harris's CNN town hall, or whenever the subject of her past stance on fracking comes up, or on some interview moment, you'll have hours and hours of coverage that frame the election. And this is such a hard thing to tangibly discuss because of how nuanced it is. But there's definitely, as someone who really, to make sure that I'm correctly critiquing mainstream media, watches a lot to understand, is this just something we're getting in clips out of context, or is there a broader issue? There's a broader issue where it feels far too often like two normal candidates are facing off, and Harris has her issues, and she didn't nail this answer at a town hall, and now we go and we spend a little equal time talking about how Trump said something kind of wacky, and who knows, and the polls are split, and what's going to happen on election day, and what do you think, Trump voter? Why is it, it's the economy that you support Trump for, and interesting, and now let's go over to... And something about that, even though I'm not saying it's actually a really simple solution, because doing fair, honest, in some cases, for some of these journalists, objective coverage is a difficult thing. But right now, they're definitely on the wrong side of the spectrum. And the coverage isn't as good as it should be. Before getting into that more, here was Anderson Cooper saying this.
This country where, you know what, I got so many. I don't look at comments about myself, but I was looking up some comments about my Grief podcast, and I came across this whole inundation from people who are Harris supporters saying to me online today, like, how dare you, what a betrayal that you would ask her these questions.
No,
and
you
I'm
did
like,
your job.
you misunderstand what my job is. I'm not on MSNBC, and no disrespect, what they do is, they're very talented. But I don't watch it. I'm not interested in watching what these overpaid blow-dried anchors think, and I include myself in that overpaid blow-dried, although I don't blow-dry. I am overpaid. But I'm not interested in the anchor's opinion. I'm interested in facts and letting the viewers make up their own mind. So anyway, I'm sorry this devolved into something.
So an interesting shot at MSNBC there. I guess what he's trying to articulate is he sees himself more as just reporting on the facts, giving less opinions, even though he does give opinions. And then the people can make up their mind, and that contrasts against anchors. There are anchors on CNN who are fully, opinionated, but then also MSNBC. But while I'm sure some people who are criticizing Cooper do want to see just hardcore advocacy, that's not where my criticism comes from. And I do have a lot of respect for Anderson Cooper. And even when we do critiques, I think sometimes certain people in this space go overboard in looking past the really important work that organizations like CNN will do in getting a lot of the primary source reporting that then we pontificate about. And we need journalists who don't see themselves as activists, but are just digging up information and trying to present as much factual information that then people can respond to and discuss. But my criticism is not about, hey, you should be more overtly pro-Harris. My criticism is in watching CNN, if I didn't do any other media consumption, too often would the portrayal of the facts come off in a way that I don't think is an accurate portrayal of the facts. I think it all comes down to what's being emphasized. And what I think people like Anderson Cooper sometimes misunderstand is how much even someone who's just giving an objective telling of factual information, how much power is in their hands to decide how much time is given to a certain subject, how much emphasis is given to that subject, because that's a decision everyone has to make. As aggressively as you're trying to give facts to people, there's limited time in any show you're doing. And so even just how much time you're giving to each block of facts is an editorial decision. And something about the balance of mainstream media has struck, how Trump is portrayed far too normally, and how we'll have roundtables about all the different issues, the minute issues with the response Harris gave, in place of more discussion about the authoritarian threat that Trump is factually. And so that's probably where most people are coming from Cooper, even if some are unfairly saying, just be a hardcore advocate. Let me know what you thought. What's your criticism of outlets like CNN in the comments? And you can get the bonus show. Credit to Charlamagne the God there for sort of calling that out, how it's just off. Something's off about this. And like I said, get the bonus show by clicking the join button below.